1870s. Indian children were forcibly taken from their parents, who at that time had surrendered, were living on reservations or in prison camps, taken and sent as far as possible away from their parents. Clothes taken away, haircut, Indian names tossed away, given white man names, George Hunt, Stan Givens. Beaten if their mouths had their mouths washed out with soap. If they spoke Kiowa or Comanche, a situation would happen, which remained until the 1960s. And so that decimation and oppression of not only our culture and our identity has led to the great hopelessness. It was a ethnocide, genocide, and even to a point deicide, when a people could not pray in their own language. And so that's why we have that type of suicide rate, that type of alcoholism rate. I would dare say that if I came and took your children away from you for the next 18 years and would not allow them to speak Dutch, would not allow them to even say their name in Dutch, and taught them what I thought would be a good way for them, that you too and your wife and your cousins would start drinking or get very hopeless because you have no possibility of fighting that kind of oppression. You're defeated. I remember my father, he had gone to college. He thought that was a way to become successful in the white man's ways. But after he got his degree, he moved back to Oklahoma, and nobody would hire him because he was an Indian. So he worked all of his adult life working in a kitchen as a dishwasher because he was Indian, not white. And one time, nearby, my father took us to a town to buy groceries. He left us at a park nearby to play. Soon we were surrounded by white children, and we were beaten. My sisters were slapped. My eldest sister, who was 8, my oldest sister was 6, I was 5, and my brother was 2. She was pleading for her to stop. They were slapping her in the face and dragging my other sister by her braids around in the parking lot. And I hated those people. I hated them.
You took Spencer into your house?
Yeah.
And then at one point you had this conversation. Can you tell me about it?
Well, what had happened, he was on a job, and one of the fellows he's working with, I guess had just triggered off some things in Spencer, and he hit the guy, really beat him up, pretty serious. And so I just called Spencer in the office whenever he come back in from the work crew, and I just asked him why he did that. And Spencer, he told me why, and then as he was talking, it was like
why did he do that?
Well, he said he just had all this anger in him, and he just went off. But as he was talking, I perceived in my own spirit that there was a lot of bitterness, not just toward this one fella. It wasn't like something that he went off on this one guy or picking him out, singling him out. But I felt like the problem was more than that. I felt like he had a problem against anybody that was white. It's just that I sensed that, So I just asked him, I told him, I said, Spencer, I feel like you're bitter towards white man. And of course, Spencer told me, he said, sure, I'm bitter towards white man. And he said, as a matter of fact, I don't like you either.
How did you react?
Well, at first, I just wept. I felt bad about it. Felt like I felt like that I had contributed to that, and that I didn't want, I wanted forgiveness for that. I didn't want to. So, as he's telling it, I just felt that and felt sad in my heart. The plight that they had, I realized that all of that bitterness and anger and why it was there, it's like it come to surface. It lighted up in me. I knew, that we were to blame for a lot of what happened, and a lot of the problems that people were having with the Indian people, like the alcoholism and all that. So it's kind of like all of this kind of culminated right there and touched my heart. And it just like, man, we need to do something about this.
What did you do about it?
Well, the only thing I could do is ask Spencer to forgive me for my part in it. And I just asked Spencer if he would forgive me. And Spencer did. You know, there was something happened to Spencer. It seemed like he just broke and wept. And we embraced. Actually, we embraced. I remember we embraced. And I felt there was a bonding that took place at that point. A spiritual bonding, you know, and emotional too, but I mean spiritual primarily. Something took place then. And I believe forgiveness took place, and I believe that a bonding to one another took place at that point.
He started weeping. First time I'd ever seen a white man cry. And this white man was crying. And I leaned forward to hear what he was saying. He was saying, "Dear Lord, forgive us. Lord, forgive us for what we have done to these people." And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd never heard that. And then my heart began to break. My anger began to melt. And he kept praying, and he was saying, "God, forgive us." And he looked at me, and he raised his head, and his eyes were full of tears just pouring down his face. And my heart just began to break. And he said, "Spencer, will you forgive me? Will you forgive me for what we've done to your people?" He said, "I cannot speak for every white man, but I speak for myself, and I am sorry." And I started weeping like a baby.
For some of the things that you see and happen amongst the Indian people, like the extreme alcoholism and drugs and things like that, I think that they're going to have to see some of that kind of a reconciliation in order to be healed, or to be delivered. Just as it done with Spencer's, they see that there is the people that's truly sorry and do want to make amends and do want to be reconciled. That will be part of what will help them to be released and delivered from that. No longer you have to put the fire out, you know, or soothe the hurt.